All right, welcome to a post-Premier League special with myself, Big Will, Coach Dan, and of course the prodigy himself, AJ. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
I'm feeling very fulfilled, but I'm also feeling a bit sad. Do you know why? Because it's just dawned on me that the Prem's over. So what am I going to be watching for the next couple of months? So happy that it's been a great season, an exciting season, a season where we've seen some crazy things happen, but also there's a little bit of sadness because that means I got to watch all the reruns. I need fresh content every week, man. Every week. Well, I'm good.
No, honestly, that's exactly what I was going to say as well, AJ. Except the fact that I think there's still some sporting activities or events coming up, so perhaps people will see us tuning into that. In the meantime, also you can watch the Under 21 World Cup,
Yeah.
There you go.
or is it Under 20s? I believe. Yeah.
Coach, I thought you were picking up. It looks like you're picking up Big Sam, taking him down to the championship, right?
he said not even I'm ahead of him, so we're not speaking terms.
That is so funny. I said, I thought you're picking up Big Sam. Next week we hear the card just open. How much are you bragging to join him in the championship?
Man.
All right, let's talk about the last day then of the Premier League season. There was only one race. It was the race to the bottom, if you can call it that. So Everton survived by the skin of their teeth. They beat Bournemouth 1-0, whilst Leicester, even though they win against West Ham, of course, that's negligible because they, again, were on lower points than Everton. And, of course, Leeds as well, lost 1 to Tottenham as well. So it's all academic for both clubs. So Everton stay up then, gents.
Them staying up is not even like, it's not, obviously for an Everton fan it's great news, but for me it's just been such a poor and disappointing season. And Frank Lampard started the rot, and obviously they just managed to put a stop to the rot. But you know, Everton needed massive rebuild at their club. There's a lot of deadwood that needs to go. If they're getting taken over, which I've been hearing is in the works and stuff like that, a massive rebuild needs to go into, number one, the infrastructure at the club, but also on the pitch in terms of players. Like, you know, they can't just rely on DCL to hit in all the goals, because when he's injured, they're toothless. You know, Iwobi's had a great season. Damari Gray has shown in patches, but they need more. If they want to survive in this thing we call the Premier League next year, they need to do more. But kudos to them for, you know, staying up. I mean, it looks gloomy, I can't lie to you, but, you know, they've managed to do it.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say to that is ultimately congratulations to them, because they've stayed up, which is what, coming into this game would have been the objective, and they did that. I think, though, I know you mentioned Frank Lampard, but I think this has been coming for a few seasons now. So our boy sort of mentioning managers, but I also share the same sentiment in the fact that a rebuilding needs to be done there. They've spent good money over the years. It's just they've brought in the wrong players.
Facts.
Whether it's they're highly priced or they've come to the club because they've joined because of a manager, and the manager leaves 2 months later, and then it's like, well, what am I doing at this club? Because the next manager don't fancy me, or I don't actually want to be here. That's a poor way to run a football club. And they've really suffered from that. Great that they've stayed up, but big works need to be done.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely. So Leeds and Leicester get relegated. Let's start off with Leicester. Of course, they won the Premier League in the 2016 season. Relegated. I mean, where now for Leicester? Do you think they'll get straight back up?
You know, I say this to you guys all the time. I believe the Championship is arguably the hardest league in the world, in terms of if you go down from the Prem, more time you suffer to get back up. And we've seen with some huge clubs over the years, they've gone into the Championship and then they've actually not come straight back up, and they've gone down and gone down and then gone down. A lot of it's about finance and structure. You know, you can't be paying the big bucks you're paying in the Prem in the Championship. It's a different playing field. And in the Championship, the difference between, like, we've seen it this year. Look how close it was to get into the playoffs. It was literally minuscule, minor points in between teams. So Leicester, as big as the club is, I believe should bounce straight back up. But again, it hinges on two things. I mean, It hinged on number one, who they get in, manager-wise. I think that's very, very crucial. They've got to look at that. And number two, who can they retain and keep hold of that will drive them back up to the Prem? They've got some great quality in Harvey Barnes and Maddison, but can they keep those two? It's going to be a tough summer for Leicester, but they can do it. I mean, it's such a shame that a team who won the Prem, I can't believe I'm saying this, only 7 years ago, they won the Premier League, have now been relegated. It's crazy to think of, But I believe if they keep a few of that personnel, they'll come straight back up.
Definitely.
It's a great tragedy, boys. Simply
100%.
put, a great tragedy. The previous with Everton, I said I won't mention managers, but I'm sorry, boys, I have to mention managers on this one. And I think Brendan Rodgers should hold his head in shame for this. I think a lot of what's happened today is down to him, and I suppose the club also, because they kept him on for a long time. I think the first few games of the season they shifted almost 600 goals, and I don't think that was appropriate at all. So he had to have gone by.
How can you say 600 goals?
No, because it wasn't good enough at all. Like Danny Ward or whatever the fella's name is, never to put down a player, but he's just not cut out to be in the Premier League, let alone for a club like Leicester and starting as well. I thought it was just a shocking to see how they started off the season, and they never really recovered, guys. They might win a game here, but then they'll go on another losing run. And it's just so terrible to see. The only problem, AJ, right, you were saying if they can keep some of these boys around, this is exactly why it's a tragedy. The boys are too good to play in the Championship. They can't hold on to them in the Championship. Bro. Tielemans should have left, just to mention one name, because he didn't want to sign a contract. If he had the intention of staying at Leicester, he would have signed a contract. No, now that they're in Championship, he's going to show commitment and loyalty to them. And so I think they've left a few things too late. And boys, to simply put it, it's just us surprisingly just terrible as it was, euphoric, them winning the Premier League. Them going down, it's just as terrible as, in comparison to how euphoric it was that they won the Premier League. And everyone at that club, this is a very sad day, guys. To have won the Premier League several years ago and find yourself in this state, Leicester Football Club. I'm not talking about a team who don't have great players, because they've built on from that Premier League win. The money they've spent, the players that they've got at the football club, it's unacceptable, boys. It's unacceptable. I feel sad for Leicester, and I'm by no means anywhere near a Leicester fan. But it's a shocking way to run things. I need to stop. I need to stop.
I agree with you. I agree with you, especially the Brendan Rodgers. Remember, I kept on saying to you guys, Brendan Rodgers is killing them. He's killing them. He's got to go. Otherwise, it comes to a point where it's too late. It's unsalvageable. And that's what we have. And you look at their recruitment as well, it hasn't been great. You can't get rid of Kashmir Schmeichel, who's been your servant for about over a decade. And then he goes across to Nice, I believe it was, and then you bring in Danny Ward. You're asking for trouble. You can't get rid or marginalize Sionchu, then bring in like Sancho Bob, who's not even any better. It's just little things, and it's like, can you not see the writing on the wall with these things? But hey, maybe that's why I don't manage a club or own a football club. Terrible.
Let's talk about Leeds then. I mean, they came up back to the Premier League after so long being out of the Premier League. There was so much euphoria, but now they're back down. And coach, I mean, wrap up Leeds season for us. Had Jesse Marsh again, and then they sacked their second manager. Sam Allardyce comes in. He can't keep them up. I mean, Leeds United, is it gonna be another 10, 15 years before they get back in the Premier League? Unless
they can somehow convince Bielsa to come back with what they have, yes. Yeah, but this is my point. Unless they can convince him to come back, because only he could have done that miracle that he done, bringing them to the EPL. And I think his time there, he almost built like an identity of who Leeds were or were supposed to have been. And they seem to have lost that slightly. And eventually, that's resulted in them getting relegated. I think under Bielsa, they were very hardworking. You know, they weren't an easy team to come up against. You knew they were going to run more than you. That was for sure, right? And they earned some great results from that. I know before they sacked him, you know, he had some tough matches and whatnot. But I think they needed to show a bit more faith in him. And then even when they sacked him, who they brought in didn't fill me with hope. It didn't really tell me they knew what they were trying to do to bring in Jesse Marsh. And I thought they supported him. They gave him the money he needed to do what he needed to do. Clearly, they weren't good enough because he just went to the Austrian League, which, you know, he has some connection and bought some few players and recruited Americans. I don't know what he was building. Maybe the Avengers or something. I don't know. He tried to make America great again. I don't know what his business was, but Leeds United wasn't it. Leeds United wasn't it, and it's been a big failure, boys. It's been a big failure again. I can imagine a sad day for the city of Leeds. You know, coming to the EPO was a big thing, and now to find themselves there, AJ, like you asked, man, you can't. Sorry, Will, you can't really for sure say they'll be coming up next year. I don't think they have a good enough team because some of those boys are on loan and they will be leaving.
AJ, Leeds?
It's just, there's no words to describe their capitulation. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. And the tip of the iceberg for me is you go and get Sam Allardyce, who's been out of management for so many years. Why? Because he took an illegal type of bang thing while on camera, while England managed. Do you see that? Like, that's the lowest of the low. The guy even had the cheek to pick up £5 that dropped the evidence and try and give it to the fourth assistant. Like, this is how low Leeds have gone. Like, and it's just a sad state of affairs. Leeds is such a massive club. They have such a rich history. But when you look at after they decided to get rid of Bielsa and everything that's transpired after, it's not justified. You get in Jesse Marsh, who comes in, he's got bright ideas, okay, he tries to translate, it's not translating. You give him money to spend in Jan, he spends the money, and was it 4 or 5 games that you get? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, then it's not working, you get rid of him, and then you go and get some Allardyce. Listen, they haven't got a proven goal scorer. Patrick Bamford was injured. Rodrigo started scoring a few goals, got injured. They look toothless up front. They've not got enough creativity in that squad. There are some good players in there, Somerville, Nyonto, but will these guys do the business in the Championship? There are the guys who I've just mentioned. I think other clubs will look at them because they seem as if they can do something. Harrison's another one, but I think he signed a new deal recently. There's a lot for Leeds to sort out. And number one is getting in a manager who be given time to stamp his authority and his style of play on that squad and get that squad looking a lot better. There's a few outgoings that need to happen as well. Coach, you mentioned it so many times. You can't have a 21, 22-year-old in Melier playing week in, week out in the Premier League without any competition. It doesn't bode well, you know. So there's a lot of work to be done at Leeds. But it's a huge club with a great fan base. So I hope that helps them in their pursuit back into the Prem. But sad day for Leeds fans, man, honestly.
Definitely. But it's been a good week for fans of Brighton and Aston Villa. So Brighton, earlier this week, they qualified for the Europa League. And of course, today, Aston Villa confirmed their place as well to qualify for the Europa Conference League. So just a word, Coach, you speak about Brighton and then AJ, you can follow on in terms of Aston Villa and how they've done this season.
You guys can hear me okay, yeah?
Yeah.
I'll make the argument, boys, that Brighton is perhaps my team of the year. And their manager most definitely manager of the season. Look, so we all know the team that's going to win all these accolades that I just mentioned, right? Like the manager of the year, team of the year, and all these kinds of things. Manchester City has done wonderful things, like to win the league 5 times, I believe, in 6 years. And 5 times in 6 years, right? If I'm correct. Exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
But I always try and draw the comparisons, like, when you look at Manchester City and their resources, are we really surprised that Manchester City won the league? when we've seen what they've done last year or the year before? Are we really surprised? Is it a great achievement that Manchester City has won the Premier League? Maybe the way that they have done it and what they could still win this season will make them a great team. But we're talking about just for the EPL. I think when you look at Brighton's team, bar one or two players, I think they had one of the worst teams in the Premier League. I didn't think their team was great. Not to say I thought they will get relegated or where they'll finish, but to get Europe with that team, guys, I think he's done a phenomenal job. I think he's done a phenomenal job. A great achievement for them. I think first time in Europe. And you know, we speak about Haaland and the great things he's done coming to the EPL. Well, this is a manager that came to the EPL, and it seems like this is where he should have been for a long time ago. He's got the boys playing some wonderful football. He's increased everyone's price tag by 60 million, right? Because these young boys and the money being thrown at them is just ridiculous, but that's how good they've been. That's how good they've been. You look at some of the stats that's coming out, like Salcedo being like only second or joint with Trent in chances created for anyone that I believe is in the midfield. I forget the exact thing. And I thought that was just wonderful. They've taken more shots than every other team in the EPL. Guys, it's unheard of. It's unheard of. And we're talking about a team here in Brighton where we thought Graham Potter was doing a great job. Well, if he was doing a great job, how do we describe this one?
Indeed. AJ, Aston Villa, Unai Emery, superb season for Aston Villa. I think we just lost AJ there. Coach, you want to speak about Aston Villa just whilst AJ gets ready?
Yeah. Again, another manager who had a point to prove, right? Yeah. He had a point to prove coming into the EPL, you know, with his history with Arsenal. And he took over from a manager who is one of the most beloved figures in the EPL, in Steven Gerrard. It just all seemed to have gone wrong so quickly for Steven Gerrard at Aston Villa. But we've covered a few teams who've made poor decisions in the managers that they've brought in. For a club like Aston Villa to bring in Unai Emery was massive, was big. Because it's a manager that's won competitions in Europe. You know, sometimes we speak about certain managers in great light, but then we speak about Unai Emery. I feel like for some reason he doesn't earn the same respect that we give other managers. But I don't know if they say anyone that's won the Europa League more times than him. You can say whatever you want about the Europa League. It's a great competition. If you're in Champions League, you're winning Europa League, right? He's won Liga. You can say whatever you want about how they lost out to Barcelona in that epic game. Mm-hmm. But who's been able to do anything with that PSG team anyway, right? Apart from maybe Tuchel. He's come in, he's got everyone performing at a much higher standard. And it's almost like he's fixed a few things that were missing slightly. So I remember beginning of this season, Gerrard demoted Tyrone Mings from the captaincy. He came back and he reinstalled him back into the starting lineup. You know, and everything just started to click again. They play, of course, beautiful football because he's coming from a place where the education of football is just how they want it to be. And he's managed to get a few players in that's really honed into his ideas. And he's got the maximum out of most of the players there because most of them were underperforming. And he's come in, managed to get what he needed out of them, and to get Europe, boys, it's a phenomenal achievement. That's all you can say about these managers coming in and doing work that they've done. Because Aston Villa, I still think they've got another gear to go, you know, if they can get the right players in. And so I'm very excited for both of them. Great achievement for Villa. We thought was it Dean Smith who was there a couple of years ago? Was it Dean Smith, if I'm remembering correct?
Yeah.
Again, we thought he done a great job until he got sacked, right? Unai Emery is taking it to another level. Because I think Aston Villa spent enough money for us to start demanding European football of them. And they bring the right manager to do so.
Definitely. AJ, do you want to add to that?
I think it's just been an incredible season for Villa. I think if you look at when Unai took over, they were languishing. People were even flirting relegation alongside their names. And he's come in, and like Coach said, he's maximised a lot of players. Ollie Watkins's form since Unai's taken over has been sparkling. He's, moved John McGinn's position and made him more effective. Jacob Ramsey, by the way, who's I think is a very, very good young player. He's maximised him, has him higher up the field. And like Coach said, he's come in and just tweaks a few things that just needed addressing. And now he's getting the best out of a team who I believe have so much more potential. We had Leon Bailey being more productive in the final third. So he's working a beautiful machine at the moment. And I can only see Villa getting better. And I think them being in Europe now will push the ball to spend a bit more money and get in the players that he wants. And then we'll really see Unai Emery's genius just come to the forefront. So I think it's a great appointment. And it will be great to see them in Europe. I think they'll be very exciting in Europe. I think they play a nice brand of football. And I think 1 or 2 additions, I think there might be a bit of an exodus at Villa, actually. But I think the ones that he'll get in, I think he's going to get the best out of that Villa team. And we will be seeing him in Europe for a few years, honestly.
Absolutely. Now, we will save our look at the top 4 and, of course, Manchester City in the next few weeks, especially because we've got the FA Cup and the Champions League coming in the next few weeks. And who knows, City could make history and win, of course, the treble. But speaking about Europe, boys, yesterday we had a fantastic end to the Bundesliga season. Dortmund, going into the game, all they had to do was win at home to Mainz, and they, of course, lose. Well, they drew. I believe they drew, but it wasn't enough to win the German title as Musiala comes up with a fantastic 2-1 winner for Bayern Munich. I mean, like I said in one of our group chats, Coach, I mean, if Arsenal bottled the Premier League, what do you describe as Dortmund's actions yesterday?
The words I want to use, I don't think is good for social media, so so I'll refrain from using it. After 11 years, after 11 years, unless you're a Bayern Munich fan, I don't think there's anyone on planet Earth that wasn't hoping Dortmund will break that streak. And ultimately, I have to say the pressure was too much for them. They played the occasion instead of taking it just as another game. That's what it seemed like. And even if you thought, oh, maybe not. Well, look at the penalty that Hala missed, right?
Yeah.
How does that happen? So look, I always say, if you want something done, you do it yourself, right? Mm-hmm. There was a game where the referee should have given him the goal should have stood and he cancelled it out. Then afterwards, I think the referee even came to apologize that, or it should have been a penny or something like that, whatever the incident was, right? And so it tilted slightly to Bayern Munich's favour. Then Bayern Munich lost last week, which one of the players came out to say, it was a favour that they asked one of the Leipzig boys, just friends talking, do us this favour. They went and done you the favour. You've got everything, the power back in your hand, and you go and perform like that. I can only describe that as the pressure being too much for them. It was just too much. They played the occasion instead of playing the match. Because Mainz is not a team that should be causing a team like Dortmund, who are a win away, boys, to win the league. That's all the motivation you need. 11 years of austerity, if you want to call it that, for the Bundesliga, right?
Austerity, man.
You're sounding like a European politician.
Bro, I'm telling you, Bayern Munich shouldn't be allowed to do what they're doing in that league. But they are. You see what I'm saying? Literally, like, it's a famine in that league, bro. They're starving. And you get this opportunity. You get this opportunity, and that's how you perform. It was just very disappointing. You can see on their faces, you can imagine the changing was too emotive, right? It was too emotional. You can imagine a lot of people with their attitudes and whatnot. It didn't play well for them. And as you look someone like Jude Bellingham, you can almost see he wanted to win that as a way to say goodbye to the fans. And unfortunately, as great as they did, not losing the game, bringing it to 2-2, I can't find the adjectives to describe it right now. But I'm sure how they were at the end of the game will tell you just how everyone in Germany feels right now. Unless you're, of course, you're Bayern München. And just my last thing, right? I say kids can't win anything. I said that, but then of course we know who won it for Bayern Munich.
Kid. Yeah.
Kid. so guys, I'm lost for words. I'm confused. I don't know what to do right now. Whether kids can win it or kids can't win it, you know. But it's a shame. It's a shame. And you know, great careers, just like Royce would go through his career not having played any major tournament for his country and also not have won anything. And I thought he was a very good footballer in his day. But football is a cruel game, my friend.
AJ, your thoughts on Dortmund coughing up the
Bundesliga? Severe capitulation. They crumbled. Listen, there's apple crumble and there's Dortmund crumble. I've never seen it. Mainz had nothing to play for, by the way.
No.
Just putting things into perspective. And all you had to do was win a game of football. Like the coach said, they played on the emotions of the game. This way you need the experienced guys to come and be like, it's just another game. We got there, we do what we've been doing. But then also you've got to look at the coach's team selection. You've got to look at that. You've got to look at it. What are you trying to prove here? Brother, have your best players on the pitch. Win the game and win the Bundesliga. Take the league out of the bondage that has been Bayern. But no. So when I saw them all like on the floor crying and that,
crying. Even the manager.
But then a part of me was like, actually, hold on a second. Nah. Because you had one job. The whole of the footballing world was supporting Dortmund for this. I'm sure there are people who prayed prayers, wasted prayers. They wasted their prayers. Do you know what I mean? So it's mad. And coach said kids can't win anything. Certain kids can win things. That's what I've learned. Because Musiala came in and boom. And you look at the record of someone like Kingsley Coman. Incredible achievements in football. And also, just to say, everyone was getting on to Tuchel, but he won the title.
Did he?
Like, yeah. Well, it's his budget. They won the title. So whatever anyone says about them going out on the CL, the cup and stuff, he's won the league. That's actually the bottom line. 10 years' time, when you look at the paper or you look at the stats, his name will be there. One. And I think Bayern will kick on from here. Dortmund, another mini rebuild has to happen. Royce is going. A few of the older guys will have to naturally leave. Jude's leaving. They have to rebuild and go again. But the beauty of Dortmund is they always attract or unearth fine young players. So let's see if they can do that again. But this pain, they'll feel it for years to come because, man, it's serious.
Yeah, and what disappointed me with Dortmund was as soon as they heard that Cohen had equalised against Bayern Munich, they just stopped playing for that, equaliser and that winning goal. But then by the time Bayern scored a goal, it was too late.
Game done, baby. This is what I'm saying. Yeah. And that's why you must always be professional in your approach. You must always stick to like your philosophy and stuff like that. Do you think if the roles were reversed and it was Man City, you think Pep will tell them to just not do anything and just sit back and invite on pressure? Of course not. You still play the game. You still play to achieve the aim, which is to execute the philosophy and the game plan you've been given. It's football. Do you know what I mean? Anything can happen in football. Come on, these guys have been professionals for how many? They should know this. So you look at the mentality of the coach, and, man, it's childish. All I can say is severe capitulation.
Madness. So, gentlemen, any final thoughts on the Premier League season as we wrap up another brilliant year for the league here in England?
Been a wonderful year of football. Wonderful year of Premier League football. There's been disappointments, of course, but one thing I will say is Luton in the Premier League. Guys, let's get season tickets for Luton. We'll see every top club. Luton. Listen, but this year of football has been incredible. I think one highlight for me, 100%, is Haaland. Just seeing him hit the ground running like he has this year has been a sight to behold. Now we're calling for Mbappe. Come to the Prem and show us that this Haaland guy is not all that he is, but you're also challenging him. That's what I need. I need that more excitement. But yeah, been a great year of football.
It has been. I think one thing I would add is the the amount of young players have stepped up to the table. They've been the poster boys for the EPL this year. A lot of the top performers this year have been 20-something-year-olds, you know, who've really stepped
20
up.
to 22.
Yeah, really stepped up.
Crazy.
And the performance have been very mature. You know, I love me any talented young player, but I've always had question marks about them, what you can do with them, right? But some of the performance this year from some of the young people, I think you mentioned Ramsey, who won Academy Graduate, I believe, of the year. What a baller that kid is, man. What a baller. I know he's gone under the radar because there's other big names out there. But let me tell you, man, if you're talking about quality and production on the pitch, he's as good as anyone.
100%. Great young player. I think he's going to thrive, honestly. But yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah. A lot of the teams we've seen this year, you know, especially a lot of the teams who played good football, a lot of their makeup has been young. So it just shows that the development of these players is only getting better, and we will have a long period of it because they're doing it so early in their career, so they can only get better, and the brand of football can only improve. You know, you look at the likes of Saka, for example, Martinelli. You look at the likes of Jacob Ramsey, Haaland, who is incredibly young. Like when you actually think about the level of goals he's scoring at such a young age, you know, there's so much. Even if you look at Southampton, for example, Lavia playing centre mid, how many games did he play in a row? And there were games where he took it by the scruff neck and really impressed. You know, there's so much talent. Ferguson at Brighton up front, what a season he's had. I think he went into double figures with goals. Like, incredible. He burst on the scene and he's done bits. So there's just so much young talent in the Prem, and they're really driving us. Elise, Eze, like, who have sparkled during this season, and they can only get better. So it's really exciting for the Premier League and its development and a lot of these players as well, to see how far they can go with their careers and how much more they can excite us and, you know, show us what they can do. So it's been amazing to behold, honestly.
Absolutely, I concur with both your thoughts there. So that does it for our Premier League wrap-up show. Make sure you tune into the Front Three podcast. Again, we're going to be reacting to the Champions League final. Big one for City. Can they finally win the Champions League final? Again, during the summer, we'll look at the Women's World Cup, and we'll have our eye on what Arsenal, Chelsea, United, Tottenham, City are all going to do, of course, in the summer transfer window. But
not Tottenham, bro, but yeah.
That is it for myself, Big Will, Coach Dan, and of course, the prodigy himself, AJ, and we'll see you very soon.